Okay, so we are live. It seems we are live. If we are not, someone should send us a message on Slack and say, hey guys, you're not live yet. If we are, let me introduce for today my co-host, Robert Jacoby. He will be hosting this podcast about security in WordPress. And we have two awesome guests. One is Igor Hrcek, the guy I'm beating in squash probably every week. He is owning the hosting company, local hosting company in Serbia. And with us, we have Dario Jazbec Hrvatin. He is documentation supervisor at On The Go Systems, the company behind WPML and Toolset. So let them introduce themselves. Let's start from Igor. So Igor, the stage is yours.
Hi everyone, I'm Igor. I'm the CTO and co-founder of the local hosting company that operates here in Serbia. We are called Mid Hosting, and for the past 12 years, we have been dealing with WordPress a lot, even more in the past 3 years. We have done a lot of WordPress development, penetration testing, and I personally spent the last 3 years advocating for security and trying to teach a broader audience, not just developers, about WordPress security, what it means, what are the best practices, and what you can do, some easy stuff that you can do to avoid being hacked or compromised. And if that unfortunately happens to you, what can you do to actually protect yourself in the future, and how to make better choices in the future.
Okay, thanks for that. Dario?
Hello, hi everyone. My name is Dario and I work for On The Go Systems. It's a company you probably best know by our plugin WPML or WordPress Multilingual. And we also have a toolset, which is another set of plugins for actual web development. And I don't know where to start, but I'll just shortly say that when I joined this company, On The Go Systems, I finally got the chance to go out and meet other people in the WordPress community through WordCamps, which was like a total eye-opener. And I love it. I still do, and I'm just waiting for us all to get back in physical form together in WordCamps, hopefully in Porto. Hope to see you there, guys. I'm actually a content manager. That's my official title. So it's not just about documentation, and it's all content. So while I'm not a security expert, I would say that, through my years and experience, I've seen things you people wouldn't believe, as they say in the movie, So I hope to share some interesting, things maybe with you today. And that's it. That's us. That's me. So yeah.
Thanks so much, guys. And I'm Alex's wonderful co-host, Robert Jacoby, from Director of WordPress at Cloudways. And I think this will be a very useful 45 minutes or so for people that are very similar to Igor and Dario in the WordPress space to get an idea of security and some of the things that have come up in their lives and experiences. And of course, being part of the Black Friday, Cyber Monday Prepathon, so that we can get all of our ducks in a row this week and make sure everyone's ready and prepared. So, to kind of kick it off with a question, this will kind of be for both of you, but really, what is, the biggest security challenge? We'll start with you, Igor, on the local hosting and web development agency side of the universe around security.
Well, let me tell you, as a hosting company, actually, for a hosting company, what you want is angry customers and wasted resources. And the websites that are actually infected with malware, they are actually wasting resources, and they are generating unhappy customers because on one hand, the resources that could be used, to have their sites performing better. They're wasted for like DDoS attacks and stuff like that. And it's actually always a challenge for us on a daily basis is a challenge to actually teach our customers how to take care of their websites, why these things matter, why the malware on their websites is actually bad for them, how it potentially is bad for their customers, and this whole process of teaching again and again and trying to teach them how to actually manage their websites properly, what things they should do, what things they shouldn't do. That's actually, as hosting providers, for us, that's the biggest challenge. As developers, actually it's testing a lot, doing a lot of tests, trying to incorporate all the best practices on a daily basis, and to try to iterate, if find some issues, try to iterate as quickly as possible to try to fix those issues that you make. We are all humans after all. We all make mistakes. I do every day, of course. I made several security related, but you want to, even if you recognize that you have an issue, what you want to do, actually, you want to act quickly as possible, to try to minimize possible damage that can occur from that.
So as a quick follow-up, how do you go about educating your customers and clients, I guess, in both aspects, so on the hosting?
So for example, as a hosting company, what we are doing for our WordPress hosting customers, we are doing security scannings of all of their websites every day, and we send emails to them, and we try to actually, in concise manner, to explain what are those reports they are seeing, how they should react, who should they call, and if they have no one to call, and usually that's the case, then they should call us to help them out with this. We also write a huge amount of blog articles that are security related. We are trying to teach people that your security chain is actually as strong as the weakest link in your chain. We are trying to tell them that installing that one WordPress security plugin actually is not going to solve any of their issues. So it's a long road to education, actually, and we spent a lot of resources to try to actually increase their knowledge in that regard. And I think that we are actually getting some traction, and actually people are getting better at it. That's at least what I see from daily statistics and the numbers I have access on.
Yeah, you're right on the money with the fact that educating end users is an ongoing, proactive, carrot and stick to make sure that they're motivated to learn and that they're taking advantage of everything. Now, Dario, you kind of come in from a different perspective because people are installing your plugins, and that I have to imagine presents a whole different set of security challenges.
Yes. For, I don't know, it will maybe sound simple, or maybe we made it simple. I don't know. So this is the thing. It's very serious, I would say. Like, the security is like one of the top things for us, because imagine this: like, WML powers more than 1 million sites. So if you get an exploit, it's like it hits the fan. Let's say it like that. So we cannot afford ourselves this. This is just like, and we don't want to. So it starts with developers. So I know I'm not a developer, but I know that we have special, whenever we have a new person joining the team, the development team, we have an extensive training for everything, including best practices when it comes to security. Of course, there are like things like how do you say it? Peer reviews, right? So like, when you want to merge something into the code, there's someone else, or at least two persons, reviewing it. So there is like there's a protocol for this, but we don't want to stop at that. So we have a third thing, which I would maybe call a fail-safe, is we actually have outside company, which is not related to us. So it's like a third party that we, from time to time, when it's necessary, or like there's like a bigger release or something, we send the whole plugin or plugins, because we have some add-ons and stuff like this, to like an audit, like a security audit. So this is like a company that specializes in finding, loopholes and stuff in your code. And, if they find anything, this is how we would probably find it before someone else, because this happens, of course, before, going to production. This is like when we are still in testing phase, we send it to them, and this is how, we would. But honestly, to be honest, I don't. There weren't any like code related incident that we had, luckily and thankfully. But we do get some like reports from users sometimes. This was more in the past, and I'm here for like 7 years, so I know one instance when a person contacted us and said like, you should, I found this, it was a minor thing, it wasn't like an exploit or something, but I think something was not like escaped or as it should have been, and then we took care of it immediately, and so it's things like this. But I think it's really down to developers and the team leader to make sure that this is taken seriously and everyone like takes care of this.
You actually brought up something quite interesting, sort of outsourcing that security testing. So you have a completely different set of eyes, a fresh set of eyes to take advantage of that.
Yes.
I assume that, Igor, you do something similar on the development front, and maybe that's a good recommendation, maybe if not for tomorrow, at least for the coming year.
Yeah, actually, I do penetration testing. The security is like a hobby of mine. Usually in Serbia, I like to test the government agencies. I am actually quite known for that. And they do not like me that much because I usually find a lot of things. For example, the official government agency that actually handles the .rs domain, which is our national domain, I had a few iterations with them, like a dozen, and actually one of the biggest job that we actually landed was through penetration testing. It actually was the penetration testing of the WordPress instance. I managed to find 178 security issues. That was a 25 pages long report that I wrote. Actually, it took me more time to write the report than to find the issues themselves. And those are kind of issues that you go to jail for if it's financial issues and very, very serious stuff. So, and another developer, they decided to hire someone else to see into their code, and through recommendations, they got to me, and I did my job, and they got fired. So I took over the job, trying to fix the project, and I managed to do so, but it's a challenge. Penetration testing is actually a good thing, and I'm quite happy to hear that actually big WordPress developers such as WPML, they are doing that, and having a fresh set of eyes brings a whole fresh perspective on things and on implementation itself. If you ask me about my code, I would say it's perfect because I don't have a perspective. I know it from inside out. But when I give it to someone else to see it for me, to check it for me, they can say, oh, this is not good. This might be a potential security risk or performance issue. And then, you see those things that you haven't seen before. So that's a good thing, actually.
Awesome. Thanks, guys.
Okay, Dario, you answered let's say, partially our next question. And it's a bit tricky one, and we need actually one really honest answer from both of you. Did you ever had some major issue and some major security breach, both for you, Dario, and Igor? And did it ever happen to you that you had a breach before your users found out, so you managed somehow to hide what actually happened?
I can go first. I don't know if you guys are like, if you're using double mail or not. So the only thing that I would say is ever happened to us was not related to our plugin, but to our site. Okay, our site got, let's say, it hacked, but it was actually an inside job. Okay, so what happened is like, it was like an ex, how do you say, ex employee, disgruntled employee, which was like, he was like one of the longer, you know, like the first people that joined the company, even way before my time. So apparently when he left, there was some kind of server, you know, access that still he had. So it was on a server level, and he, like, you know, defaced our site. He managed to use our like cron to send like not to everyone, but to some clients, an email that was like, you know, of course not talking nicely about us. And actually it was things that you end up in jail, you know, so it's like, it was really bad. But it was, so it didn't have, of course he said that like the core of the plugin is compromised, which wasn't true, you know. It's like there, you can take a look. So that never happened, but our site did get, you know, defaced. So it was kind of a wake-up call for us to handle better our internal security. Okay, so this means that we then, you know, we spent a whole weekend locking everything down and enforcing, because On The Go Systems is very much a very friendly company, really. Like when you join the company, everything we do, because we are 100% remote, you know, and we've always been remote, and we are like literally from all continents. So it must be based on trust, you know, and honesty. And with some people, it's not like that, you know. So, you know, you get like such a wake-up call. So now it's like, you know, in the corporate world, when you like, you're not longer to be working here, we like nicely escort you digitally out of the company, you know, in a friendly way. We don't just like throw you out, but, you know, we know when you're stopping, and, you know, it's taken care of, your accounts are, you know, everything is locked down and stuff like this. So this was the only like thing. It looked really bad, and it was a PR nightmare. I know, because, you know, I'm a content manager, so I, you know, answer things on Twitter and, you know, the whole storm on Facebook and stuff. But again, it was nothing related to the plugin itself, and it was a good, very good and very bad like teaching lesson for us, you know. So this never, of course, happened again, and you know, that's the story. But it ended up good. Yes, there were no like ramifications for our clients and us.
Yeah, this is actually the good story, because the major breaches actually are happening on the website level of the plugin authors, and that is where the most of the leaks and other stuff are happening. And those are the major concerns for clients and customers, that their data will not be stolen from your website or from your database. So that lesson is definitely well for your company.
Yeah, definitely. It was just like they needed to change the password and stuff like this, you know, so just to be on the safe side. But there weren't like indications that any part of the database were stolen. So, you know, call it luck or something, but it's something like everyone should learn from, you know.
Yeah, I mean, that's a great example that everyone could take a look at today, just to double check, triple check. So I know we're talking about the prepper-thon, and doing testing might be a little more difficult, but certainly making sure you double check.
Igor, are you there? Yes, sir. So it's probably my internet bugged for a millisecond. One question for Igor, the same one actually. Except you penetrating other people's websites, is there anyone penetrating websites hosted on your servers and your hosting?
Well, I will admit, we actually had one serious situation a long time ago. Actually, it was in 2010 when we actually started commercially selling hosting services here in Serbia. So we we were quite small, maybe something like 100 customers, not so much. And what actually happened, one of our servers got rooted thanks to the wonderful piece of software that all hosting providers are using called WAGNCS, which had at that time it's a building and deployment. It's used for deploying services on infrastructure, and at that time it was really terrible, littered with bugs and known and unknown security issues. And actually, we got penetrated. One server got down because of this unknown at the time security issue. We of course notified the developers and they patched things. But what actually happened? One of our dedicated servers was rooted, and what we've seen actually was an increased volume in traffic and an increased server load, which wasn't common for that server. So when we investigated a little bit further, it took us 3 or 4 days to actually figure out that something is not okay. We figured out what happened, that there were logins to the administration from the billing software. So we quickly cut it off, did a full log sweep and figured out what happened, found out who the culprit is. Of course, it was for some country, as it always is. We notified the developers. And we basically purchased new servers, migrated customers, cleaned everything up, and that was it. It took us basically 5 days to deal with that. And since we're a small company, there were no PR nightmare for us, but it was actually a very interesting experience, especially since we were guarding at the time our servers really, really tough. Everything was locked down, and somehow actually we realized that even though we put up a fortress in front of our servers, there was this one application that wasn't fully controlled by us, and we don't have access to the source code that actually managed almost to bring us down. And that was actually a very interesting experience for us. Thanks to that, we started some new things to do, like regular log sweeps. We did a lot of things about our security, especially internally, trying to mitigate those things, trying to be ahead of the game. And since 2010, I'm happy to say we had no issues at all. The only thing that we are seeing is our customers getting defaced on a regular basis. Even now, when I'm talking to you, I'm seeing emails coming. This website is hacked. This website is down. Here's the malware. Those things, they're happening all the time. But luckily for us, we didn't have any major security issues from them.
So, keeping you on that topic, Igor, because I think this is very critical. Do you, and I guess this would apply to both of you, do you use tools like PatchStack or WordFence, or communicate with those developers to make sure that if you see issues, that you're able to get those deployed out to as many people as quickly as possible, and vice versa, to make sure that you have the latest details for what may be a security issue?
Yeah, actually, what we are doing, we are following a few websites that that are sharing details about zero-day vulnerabilities, especially in WordPress space, WordPress plugins, and using that information, and we also know what our customers are using a lot. We are able to actually, to quickly act to inform our customers or to inform the developers. Or if you're seeing a surge of attacks from certain sets of IPs, what we always do, we contact the owners of those IP addresses, being services like DigitalOcean, something like that, Hrcek, it doesn't matter. And we informed them, there was this DDoS attack, or there was this major breach of WordPress logins on our servers. Here are the logs. Here are the things that you can do. And that's what we are actually doing. I personally, when I'm reviewing certain plugins, I always reach out to developers. If I find something critical, I don't go public saying, this is a piece of crap. This is someone can get defaced. I actually try to be helpful, because I think that if we all cooperate on this topic, and if we try to learn from each other, we can do actually a lot. So that's the best we can do, And of course, as a hosting provider, when we see that certain customers are under attack, we always investigate, try to figure out what is going on, especially if it's out of their normal usage pattern. For us, it's actually very easy to see that because we have all these tools. Some of them are third party. A lot of them actually we developed ourselves through the years, through our experience with hosting and managing a huge amount of infrastructure that we have. And we try to tell to our customers. We've seen this strange pattern of behavior. Contact your developers. You should update. You should do these things, to stay ahead of the game. Because if they get hacked, if they get rooted, their website is not going to work properly. Their business is going to get ruined. They're going to get mad at us. You didn't do enough. Even though if that's not 100% our job, we're just basically managing traffic from the left to the right. But again, it's what I was talking about, education. We are trying to actually go to that extra mile for our customers and to educate them as much as we can.
So then I guess part of that education would be maybe keeping things updated. That always seems to be like, one of those most common, ways to really take advantage of, a WordPress host. Why do you think that is, even with like automatic WordPress updates, why do you think that's still a problem today?
Because, and I'm going to be very, very direct about this. If you have a plugin with, let's say, questionable code quality, does the update really resolve that questionable code quality? In my experience, it doesn't. We have actually, from what we are seeing, for example, before we just started streaming, I was looking at one of our servers that we are using to host our WordPress hosting customers. We cleaned 2.7 thousand malware files in the last 7 days from those. And every single of those customers was informed about this via automated tools that we have, and then some, through our support manually. We reached out to them, telling them, something fishy is going on. You should go out and handle this. How many of those handle their issues? 10%. There are actually two issues here. There is the issue of narrative that we're having in WordPress these days, and then there is an issue of negligence and not understanding how these things work. Actually, the narrative is like, we have all of these tools these days. We completely make websites easy. You have stuff like Elementor, you have WPML, you have WooCommerce, and even if you're not tech-savvy person, you can build your website. And building a website, that's actually an easy part. Maintaining it properly, keeping it updated, keeping it performing properly, that's the hard part. And thanks to that narrative that you can slam it together easily in like 15 minutes, you just buy this theme, pop up this plugin, there is a solution for this here, install 70 plugins, and that's going to all to work magically. That's the wrong narrative, because we're not telling those people, you can slam 70 plugins together, but probably 50 of those, if they're coming from unverified developers, if haven't been updated for a long time, if their security track is very, very bad, you're going to get defaced and you're going to have a huge headache, and you need to take care about that. Most of our customers, they are not developers. They are small to medium business owners. They hired a developer who built things for them, and they just, put it on the hosting and forgot about it, which is also wrong. And from what we are actually seeing, about 70 to 80% of issues could be actually resolved by just updating regularly. That's the one thing. And the second thing is, before you install something, and I've been saying this for like 3 years, people are tired for hearing me saying this. Before you decide to install something, there is this details button. Click on it. See how long it took for developer to update to the latest version of WordPress. See the release history. Try to find about security issues. All of that takes like 5 to 10 minutes. 3 queries in Google. It's not that hard, especially if you're a developer. And you can learn more about that plugin, and you can actually, from that, you can learn if you should do that, or if you should just avoid it and try to find something else. And actually 70% or 80% of issues could be resolved with that. So it just takes a little bit of common sense and not doing everything and installing everything you can find, hoping it's going to go for the best. It's not.
So, just to pick on Dario, because, well, you do have a plugin or two or three. What are you doing to make Igor's life easier then, so he doesn't have to worry about all these issues? And, you know, really, what should other plugin providers, developers be thinking about in that regard?
I don't know. Actually, I wanted to offer a bit different perspective on this one. As a site owner, first and foremost, okay? So, and as a person that used to build sites for others before I joined the company, where I'm now, I think it's kind of, so besides doing documentation and writing articles, and, you know, I'm very interested in the usability part of everything, you know, and the user experience. So I kind of think that things are starting to get too complex for everyone, you know, like if you can today build a site easily with Elementor, why can't you just maintain it in the same similar, like easy way? You know what I mean? So let me give you an example. Like just the other week, I don't have it, I deleted it. I got an email from my hosting company, which says like something like, in this folder, which is like kind of a very long folder, in some subfolder of some plugin, there is a file that we flagged as potentially malicious. It's not really probably malicious, but you should take a look. And that's all. That's all I got, you know. So I should go in. It's not even a PHP file. It's like some, I don't know, probably JavaScript or something, you know. And this is me. So I have some experience, and like I just said, like, you know what, like it's just like for my old band's side. I don't care, you know, like it's too much. I don't have, you know, I have so much work. I don't care if it gets hacked. I'll just back it up, and, you know, I'll take a look next week. So I think the complexity for most of the people is that's one thing. Like it's just too much. It shouldn't be. Of course, a good developer, a good a web developer, and working for a client should not react like I did for my own site, which is not so relevant anymore. But the site owners themselves are usually not developers. They're not technical experts, you know. So these things are too complex for them. And you can tell them to update plugins and stuff, but for once they have other concerns and stuff. But it's not like I'm not like bailing them out. So it's also on them, meaning that if you're not a technical person, if you're not like, if this is too much for you, you should have and pay someone to take care of this for you. So I think it goes two ways, in my opinion, no? And this is from my past experience, like people always unfortunately want to save money on the most important things, like, you know, hosting and security and actually, you know, the foundation of your site. So I don't know if you can educate them. You can, but somehow the experience will teach them more than you can, you know, like once they get, you know, their site down and they don't sell anything on their WooCommerce store for 1 week, I think that that's a better teacher, unfortunately, than, you know, an article I can put on our blog and say, like, you know, let's talk about security, dear WPML users, because we do talk about that and it's important. And many of our clients do understand it, but, you know, it's kind of complex, I would say. Sorry,
and I think
did I answer your question?
Yeah, it gets to it. I know Alexander, since I'm monopolizing all the questions, but it's just so much fun. Is a big fan of documentation, and I'm sure you have a couple of comments about that, Alexander.
Yeah, well, I really like documenting everything, and I like when I ask for something and people just send me a link to some document where I can read everything I need to know about it. So from your perspective, as someone who is taking care of documentation in WPML and toolset, how important is documenting all the processes and everything you're doing to keep your plugins and everything secure?
Okay, so documentation, most of our documentation is client facing, and it's about using the plugin. So besides our installation FAQ, which tells you to keep your plugin updated, I don't think it matters that much. That's one thing. And I can tell you from experience and Google Analytics data, people generally don't read. Like, even if they come to your page to read something, they don't read. So you can, at best, you can hope they will just go through to scan it, just take a look at the headings, and maybe when they find something, they will concentrate a bit for like 30 seconds on something. So that's kind of an issue, but that's what we need to, you know, take into account. But what I wanted to just add, very related to this one, like, and this is what Robert asked. So, and it's related also to documentation. So our big advantage when it comes to security and other plugins and other code is our Go Global program, which we do with all of our partners, which are basically other themes and plugins, okay? So this Go Global partnership program means that we keep each other compatible, okay? But of course, through this, we kind of make partnerships and friends, and, you know, these are developers talking to developers. So, you know, we pretty much understand each other. So when it comes to security, I think this kind of a network helps us to communicate these things as well, you know. So for example, if we would find anything, you know, in their plugins or in our plugin, we would definitely go to them first before anyone else, and we expect the same from them. So I think this is kind of a great networking effect, that because these developers, they work on each other's code, you know, because, for example, DoubleMail to work with ACF, you know, there's quite some, you know, communication and interactivity there. So we know each other's stuff. So, you know, we would be first, like, you know, you forgot this, or you need to do this. So I think that's a very good way to keep in touch with the
it's like another pair of eyes on the same piece of code.
Yeah,
like you were said at the beginning, like, I know that my code is good, but when someone else take a look, they will say like, well, you could fix this. This was not the best way to do it. Yeah, but and the same question for Igor, like from the developer side, commenting code is how important is commenting the code you're writing for security and for everything?
Well, code comments are important, of course. Of course, there are different types of comments that you can make, but those that are explaining some complex functionalities, they are actually very, very important, because 6 months from now, even I am not going to be able to tell what the hell I was thinking when I wrote that. Actually, I was just today working on a project that I wrote a year ago, and I was like, what was this guy thinking? And I was seeing the Git history. Oh, it was me. Ooh. So, you know, but as a developer, having a good documentation is actually very important, especially when we onboard new developers and new people on a team. It makes the whole process much easier for us. It actually makes the whole process of managing the project as it grows in complexity much easier for us. And it just helps with the complexity of things. The same thing goes for the infrastructure, because we keep infrastructure as a code. Actually, all of our infrastructure is defined in the code in different types of projects that we're using, such as Terraform and Ansible. All of that for us is actually a documentation. So actually writing a good code for our infrastructure is the best way to document things, you know. And what we are actually trying to do, we are constantly iterating to the old code base, trying to improve it, trying to update it, to try to make it more streamlined. We are trying to test it regularly as well. Of course, as a hosting provider, that's actually quite important, you know, to test regularly what you're having in code. We are desperately trying to actually to avoid that GitLab situation, you know, 3 different types of backup and having none actually so documentation for us is actually everything, especially since we are not just developers, we have support teams, you know, and they have own documentation. Then there is a public knowledge base that we heavily rely on to try to actually educate our customers and to provide them with the answers on their most common questions. All that is our documentation. And actually, when I think about it, we're actually handling a huge amount of documentation, different sorts of documentation that require different levels of expertise to be written, and that's actually a handy task. It's a big task actually.
Yes, I'm trying to word my sort of follow up to that, because we have really this week to prepare for all our sites, and one of the concerns that certainly will come up for folks next week when their sales are going full steam ahead is, if they are hacked in the middle of the day, if some malware comes into, gets into that site while their sale is going on, do you have best practices, best tools, best thoughts on how to mitigate that damage? So malware removal, something besides taking the whole site down and restoring from backup, from even just 24 hours ago, where you still might be losing a lot of customer data or sale data, content and information. Any thoughts on that, Igor?
Well, from what from my experience is, the more valuable your website is for your business, the more care you're going to take care about it. For example, we had this customer like 3 weeks ago. It's a developer agency, and they purchased one of our WordPress packages, and they put 10 websites on it. And one day, Google Say Browsing decided to put them on a blacklist because one of those 10 websites got hacked, and the malware just spread around. And they had a very hard time as a developer to understand why that happened, how that happened. And it took them and us with them like 14 days to bring them off that list. And on the 15th day, they realized that they need to change the game, and how the things should be handled actually. So, and we also had some other customers, high-profile customers, that are using their website as a single point of sale. Very important these days, especially in COVID days. And they also had developers, and we helped them actually to fix their websites, to find the issues, to recognize where the issues are. So, to answer your question, if you have a high-value website, for example, with WooCommerce, and it's making money, again, from my experience, you probably have someone who is taking care of it, who is actually updating it regularly, and is there to actually answer a quick call if it's needed. What should you do? You should inspect all the files that have been changed in the past, like 24, 48 hours, 72 hours, depending on the type of access you have. If you don't have like an SSH access, you can't access the terminal, ask your hosting company to help you out, at least to list a number of all the files that have been changed, and just go through them. If you're a developer, you should be able to quickly figure out what's wrong. What we usually do, we try to remove all those files. If we see that the WordPress core has been compromised, there is this very handy WP CLI tool that helps us actually basically reinstall WordPress without data loss and to replace all the files altogether. Depending on how deep the damage is, the second thing that we usually do, we practically nuke the WP plugins folder completely and reinstall everything from scratch, because that usually resolves. It's if you need the quick solution for a really serious issue, that's what we actually do. Of course, we actually ask our customers, "Are you sure that you want to do that? Website is going to be unavailable for a certain amount of time, but it's the best way." Usually, people like just to restore the backup, but there is a catch. The thing that people do not realize is actually, once your site gets hacked, the malware stays there for some time, and it's not activated immediately. We have seen websites that switched like 3 or 4 hosting providers in 3 or 4 years, and no one caught the malware. And then it got activated like in 2020, instead of 2017 when it was actually initially hacked. So restoring a backup that is 30 days, 60 days, even 90 days old, it's not going to do a thing, So restoring a backup is not actually always the best solution. Sometimes it's just solution that you think is a solution, but it's actually there still is a problem, and we've seen that all the time, especially in this case that I told you about. So it depends on how severe you compromised your website compromised is. There are different approaches that we take, and I say again, usually we just reinstall the WordPress core, advise people to change all of their passwords. We hide the WordPress login quickly behind HTTP authentication, and then we see about their plugins, see if any of those are on 0-day lists, have been penetrated recently, reinstall everything, and then take it from there. Because we are quite sure at that point that we have neutralized 90% of the threat, and the rest of things they're probably hiding in uploads folders or maybe in a team, but we can handle that pretty quickly.
So there's actually an opportunity. Sorry, Dario or Alex, to do some of this testing, obviously ahead of time. I mean, you could even have a completely separate hosting and staging environment elsewhere where you're, first of all, testing that your backups work, because a lot of people make backups, but then, when they try to restore, they're like, oh my God, I don't know what I'm doing. I don't have a plan for it. How do I do this? But then on that sort of staging or separate environment, you could also be running a whole series of tests to make sure that, to your example, Igor, that there isn't something that's been hiding there for 90, 120 days, 2 years. No, that's good advice. Thank you.
Okay, for the end of this conversation, because we're like already 2 minutes over what we planned. It was really interesting. So the time really flies. The question for both of you to wrap it up: what is the biggest no-no when it comes to security, and some tip or trick for everyone watching this today?
Okay, I'll go first. What's the biggest no-no? If you're a business, here are some tips. First of all, a bad application on your phone can get hacked. We've seen that in the past year a lot, actually, from our customers. If you're not enforcing a good security standards in all logins that are related to your hosting and then to your WordPress or your website, can get hacked. We've seen that a lot as well. Don't install everything that you find. And if you're not tech savvy and if you're not quite sure what you're doing, try to find some help. WordPress community is huge. People are very friendly. They want to help. They will help you. Reach out and ask. They're not stupid questions. You are going to get stupid if you don't ask and if you get yourself in trouble. And trust me, from our experience, if you get in trouble, that is going to cost you greatly of your time. Your customers are going to leave, especially if you want to try to sell something via your website. So just reach out. Not all people are tech savvy, and they shouldn't be. That's the reason we have developers and business people, and doing different kinds of things. Just reach out. You're going to get help, and just use some common sense. And of course, once you have your WordPress installation up and running, update it regularly. That is going to resolve at least 80 to 90% of your issues. And that's probably it. That's the quick tips.
I think Igor said it very well. Actually, I wanted to suggest something similar, like to find your community, whatever it is. Some people use Elementor, so there are a ton of Elementor security groups on Facebook and Twitter. If you use WMail, you can use our forums and stuff. If every niche has its own groups of people and community, and of course you have WordPress community. So use it. It's really great. If you don't know, and we don't know everything, so ask, and it's a great way to help. And I also wanted to mention one thing. It's not very secretly tip or anything, but I've noticed on WordPress Croatia and WordPress Slovenia groups where I am active because I live here. Some inexperienced starting developers are very tempted by those websites that sell you like, a great bundle of pro plugins for like $5, and it includes everything you could ever imagine. So besides this being completely illegal, of course, the other thing is you don't know what's inside, so it says it's WPML inside, or it's like, ACF Pro inside, but you don't know what's in the code. So I think I've read articles that like, that outline how this can be very easily used to sell you stuff that actually,
Awesome.
compromises your whole network and your
And
site.
I have just 2 questions for you, and we're done. And those are questions from the viewers. Dan K asked 2 questions actually. For you, Dario, what's the third-party company name for checking the plugins you mentioned? Is that the company you're actually hiring to do that for you, or so? So that is the question number 1 for you. And the question number 2 is for Igor. What's your opinion on securing sites with Sucurial or WordFence? And we are done with this.
Okay, so I can be quick. I don't know the name of the company. I can find out, and it's not a secret, but I could ask around the development team, but I don't know the name.
So then you can find Dario on Facebook, add him as a friend, send him a message, and then you will get that information back.
Of course, yes.
Igor, opinion on Sucuri and WordFence?
This is going to be very unpopular opinion, because I say this all the time. Don't use WordPress security plugins. They do not do much. A lot of those things that you can do by yourself. A lot of those things are actually listed in WordPress documentation, what things you can do, what things you should avoid. Listen, the question of security is actually a complex one. It's like a pie, and it's this big. And there is no one thing that resolves all the issues. So it's a huge thing, and I could spend another 50 minutes talking just about this question. But here is the probably better answer. If you plan to purchase hosting, ask about their security practice. See what kind of security layers are there in their service. That alone is much more than you need for replacing those security plugins that are telling you that they are going to take care of everything. They are not. It's better to purchase a more expensive hosting service that actually spends money where it's very important, especially on security stuff, and then you can save yourself a lot of trouble. That's everything I can say for such a small amount of time.
Okay,
yeah.
Thanks a lot, guys.
At the end of the day, it's at some point you get what you pay for. Thank you so much, Igor. Thank you so much, Dario. It was great having you. Thank you, Alex, for bringing together a great panel here so we could explore what folks can do for the Black Friday, Cyber Monday, BFCM Prepathon 2021.
Thank you for being here. And the next thing happening on our Prepathon today is Twitter chat, the need for an optimized e-commerce store during the BFCM campaign by Stephen Wu. He is co-founder of R&W Media. So that is the next thing happening today, right after this, like it's in 6 minutes. And right after that one, again, Twitter chat with Katie Zant and Zach Stepek. Katie is a product manager at Stellar WP, and Zach Stepek is CEO at Mighty Swarm. So both of those are on our Twitter, so our Twitter chat. So right after this one, in 6 minutes, you can join our Twitter channel and join that Twitter chat there. So thanks again, everyone, and enjoy the rest of the Prepathon.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.